Doctor, we are live now.
Good evening. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of TNOA. This webinar is really an important one, simply because it's going to teach us how to write up articles, how to write up for a journal, how to write up case studies, how to plan out your writing career, because as it has been very clearly told, you either publish or you perish. And it's quite important that one publishes, not only to disseminate the knowledge one has got, but also to learn how to do a study properly so that it is acceptable for publication. The very fact something that you write is being accepted by an accredited journal is a credit by itself to the person who's publishing. So how do you skill up to get to that level where you will be able to design the study, execute the study, write it up properly, put in the proper citations, and you'll be able to get it published. So as we learn to publish, we learn to go up the ladder from publishing in smaller journals to climbing up the ladder to going to the journals which have got very high impact factor. So all of these are very important. One has to learn it at the beginning itself. But something like this is useful for everybody, whether it's a PG or a person who's just starting the career, or somebody who's in the mid-career, or somebody like me who are almost at the very end of our career. We still learn these kind of small tricks and of the trade to get better at publishing. So without wasting any time, let me hand you over to the wonderful panel that we have got, very experienced, very well published, and very knowledgeable panel who will take you through the whole process of learning how to publish.
Thank you, sir. I now request our ARC chairman, Dr. Atik, to give introduction for today's webinar.
Thank you, Nagalakshmi. So warm welcome on behalf of the Tamil Nadu Ophthalmic Association for this wonderful webinar relating to publications and research. So we have with us team Tamil Nadu Journal of Ophthalmic Science and Research, and we have the AOS editor also. It's a privilege to have two eminent editors with us today. To begin with, the Tamil Nadu Journal of Ophthalmic Science and Research has really been growing leaps and bounds over the past 6 to 8 years. And Dr. Jayanthan has been continuing that, and he's really taking the journal to the next level. Over the past few years, he's been doing certain things which are unique. They've converted a lot of PG theses into manuscripts, and they've been converting research papers into manuscripts. They've been getting submissions from international authors, and the journal has also started reaching international waters. Great going, Jayanthan. Hope your team really takes the journal to next level. Thanks for joining, Dr. Jayanthan. And we have with us the editor-in-chief of IJO. IJO has really gone to leaps and bounds in terms of paralleling international standards under the leadership of Professor Vanati Madam. She's been doing certain unique things in the IJO journal, which have set this journal a class apart. They've been mentoring articles to help deserving budding researchers write their first article. They've come up with the IJO cover photo quiz and with the photo contest and the TJOSR video report. Thank you, ma'am. We are looking forward to many more from your team. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Atik, sir. Now, with that, we'll go on to the introduction of our eminent list of speakers lined up for today. So the first topic would be Beyond the Click, the art of publishing photo essays and ophthalmic essays. So we have with us Dr. Sameer Chowdhury. He's the Medical Officer, Department of General Ophthalmology from Arvind Eye Hospital and Postgraduate Institute, Madurai. He has about 22 research articles in peer-reviewed journals and one book chapter to his credit. And he's also a peer reviewer of multiple international journals. And we also have with us Dr. Nimrita Nagdev, who's a glaucoma consultant, Arvind Eye Hospital, Tirunelveli. She has over 16 publications to her credit. And of course, we have with us Dr. Prasanna Ramesh, who needs no introduction. He's a glaucoma medical officer at Mahatma Eye Hospital Private Limited, Trichy, and he has over 12 chapters, 52 PubMed publications, 139 indexed manuscripts, and over 400 citations. Also joining us is Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, who is a senior glaucoma consultant from Arvind Eye Hospital, Madurai. She has over 25 papers and 50 case reports to her credit. Also joining us is Dr. Pranesh Ravi, who's a cornea and phaco-refractive consultant from Eye Foundation Group of Hospitals, Pollachi branch. He has over 10 indexed articles in peer-reviewed journals, and he's an author of more than 3 chapters. And we also have with us Dr. R. Madhavi, who's a glaucoma consultant from Eye Foundation, Vellore, and she has over 30 publications in peer-reviewed national and international journals. And we have with us Dr. Mritika Sen, who is an associate consultant, Orbit and Oculoplasty Services, Shankar Nethralaya, Chennai. She has over 70 publications and over 1,600 citations to her credit. So, as Atik sir had introduced, it's a great pleasure to have with us our TJOSR's Editor-in-Chief, Dr. Jayantan sir, and Professor Manati ma'am, who's the Editor-in-Chief of IJO. I now request Jayantan sir to kindly say a few words about TJOSR and then take the webinar forward. Thank you, sir.
Can I share my presentation?
Naglakshmi, can you stop sharing?
Yeah. Yes, I think you can share your screen.
Not I think there's some issue. So there's some issue with sharing. So do you have the presentation possible for you to share? Okay, so let me start. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our TNOA ARC TJOSR combined webinar. TJOSR is the official publication of TNOA. It's a platform dedicated to advancing knowledge, fostering collaboration, and sharing groundbreaking results in the field of ophthalmology. We are happy to have this journal running successfully for the past 2 decades. So the last few years, we are happy to have a host of new reviewers added to the journal, getting it indexed with the DJO, and we are in the platform of getting Scopus indexing. Thank you, Atik. Okay, so we started with the motto that our journal, our pride. So we want everyone to take a pride of the journal and then start a publication career in the field of ophthalmology. And so this is our official website. We are tied up with the Wolters Kluwer's and the Lippincott for publication of our journal. So this is the 22-23, the articles that has been published. And the next one is the 23-24. I think we move. Yeah, thank you. So as you could see here, the journal has been growing extraordinarily. The 1-year data has been already reached in 6 months itself in 2024. We have an encouraging number of submissions throughout the year across the globe also. Okay, this is one example where we had an international publication, and this took us a long way and to get the publication in our journal. And now with this, every journal we have, every issue we have a separate section dedicated for the international authors, and we are overwhelmed with the response. You could see Lippincott has got more than 200 journals associated with that. In that, there are more than 2 dozen of journals in ophthalmology itself. Among that, our journal's article stays the most grossed ones. These are some of the articles. And the next one is the article which has been downloaded more frequently among all the ophthalmology journals. And this is a proof that the readership of our journal has been increased across the borders. This is a July data, and now with the next 2 issues being published from the Middle East and the Australian countries, we are having a wide number of readership throughout the world. Thanks to the authors, the peer reviewers, and the interest shown by all the Google people and my association people who supported in reaching this feat. So we have an exciting agenda lined up now. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into an engaging and insightful discussion. On behalf of the entire organizing and the editorial team, I warmly welcome you all for this webinar. Thank you. We'll move on to the first presentation. Naglakshmi, can you hear me? We'll move on to the first presentation.
Yes, sir. So now invite Dr. Samir Chaudhary to please start the meeting.
Are my slides visible?
Yes, Doctor.
So a very good evening to one and all. At the very outset, I would like to thank the entire team of TNOA for giving me this opportunity. So I'll be talking about Beyond the Click, the art of publishing photo essays and ophthalmic images. So to begin with, what are photo essays and ophthalmic images? They are a form of a visual narrative which combines a series of photographs with minimal text. So these images take the center stage here, highlighting a clinical condition and the minimal text describing them. So if you would ask me to summarize my entire presentation in 2 words, it would be photographic documentation. So ophthalmic images and photo essays are nothing but photographic documentation. They are easy to begin with as compared to other forms of research articles, as they require minimum write-up, and you can actually finish one within a day. So it's a unique blend of visual storytelling and scientific communication. And coming to guidelines, majority of the journals restrict the write-up to 100 to 350 words. It can be either a single image or a composite image. By what I mean by a composite image is that it has multiple components. So references may or may not be required, and authorship is usually restricted to 3 to 4 authors. So how to make your ophthalmic image or photo essay more acceptable? So try to give it a unique or a catchy title. Identify the extraordinary and the unique. How your image or the particular case stands out in the already reported literature, and try to make it interesting. I'll be showing few examples towards the end of my presentation, and I'll be discussing through these points. So coming to photographic documentation, so you can either use, you can document the case either through slit lamp photography via dedicated imaging modules, or even a smartphone, which these days everyone is having. So it becomes very handy, and you can actually click a photo through the eyepiece of the slit lamp. It can also be external photography or fundus photography in different forms such as FAF, FFA, B-scan, fundus photos, and so on. So one important thing that I would like to emphasize is focus on quality. So if an image is of high quality, then it makes it more acceptable. Also, it's better to have multi-model imaging. What I mean by multi-model imaging is having multiple imaging techniques to give a comprehensive view, which usually complement each other. It's always also better to document your pre and post procedure and also the follow-up visits. So this is an example. This was a case of a posterior polar cataract with a pre-existing PC dehiscence. So these 3 were slit lamp photographs, and this was an ASOCT image. This shows PC dehiscence, which confirms the pre-existing dehiscence, posterior capsule dehiscence. And these 2 images were taken after the phacoemulsification. So these 4 images actually complete the story of that particular case. So this is a brief list of few journals which accept photo essays and ophthalmic images. And coming to going through a list of photo essays and ophthalmic images that I got published. So this was a case of KF Wilson's disease, which had a complete 360-degree KF ring. So if you see, KF ring is not a very unique entity. It's very well reported. So to make it interesting, what I did was I compared this particular image with the historical Indian copper coin. So there was a central aperture which I colored black so that it resembles the pupil, and the rim of the coin resembled signified the iris or the KF ring. So since this was made up of copper and there is copper overload in Wilson's disease, this made even more sense. So I titled it as Copper Coin Dies, and it got published in TNOA JOSR as an ophthalmic image. And this particular image also featured on the cover page of the JOSR journal in January-March 2023 issue. So another case, this was a case which I saw when I was going to do yak capsulotomy for this particular patient. And these two images were taken using a smartphone. So if you see, there was a very unique pattern of this PCO, which sort of resembled crocodile chagrin of the cornea. So I titled it as Crocodile Chagrin PCO, and it got published as an ophthalmic image in IJO case reports. Another case, this was a case of an electrical cataract. These two images taken using slit lamp camera, diffuse illumination, retro illumination showing star-shaped opacities. Then this was a B-scan image which showed a normal posterior segment. And then this image taken using a smartphone showing an entry wound of the electrical shock. So electrical cataract also has been reported well in the literature. So what made our case particularly unique was exclusive involvement of the crystalline lens with sparing of other intraocular structures. And also we were able to identify only the entry wound, and the exit wound was not identified, and it got published as an ophthalmic image in IGO case reports. So as I already discussed this particular case, so coming to the title of this particular image, so PPC, if you see, the concentric layers often resemble a bullseye target. So hence it's also called bullseye opacity. And since the dehiscence in this particular OCT image it's called teardrop sign. So we got a little creative and we titled it as teardrop in bull's eye. So this was a particularly very interesting case. This was a 14-year-old female with bilateral nevus of Ota and had Sturge-Weber syndrome as well. So you can see the unilateral port wine stain, and again the images were of very high quality. And this particular entity is quite rare, called phacomatosis schizophrenia, and got published as a photo essay in IGO case reports. So this was my very first publication. This actually, I saw this case during post-op rounds, POD1 following SICS. And it has a very unique pattern of primary posterior capsular opacification, which sort of resembled a cobweb. So we took slit lamp photographs for this patient and we got it published in IGO case reports. So another very interesting case of detached Schwalbe's line in Axenfeld-Rieger syndrome, which got published in NMJI. And these were three another ophthalmic images and photo essays, megalocornea and microspherophakia and homocystinemia, megalocornea being a rare association, then flax in traumatic cataract with ALC fibrosis, showing a very well documented case. Then this was published very recently in JOSR, traumatic complete optic nerve avulsion, which we gave a unique title of optic nerve lost in a blink. So many people would argue that, we don't have access to a slit lamp camera. How should we, go about it? So these are few images which I wanted to show, which I took using a smartphone through a slit lamp. So smartphone comes very handy, and whenever you see an interesting case, don't shy away from documenting it. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. These are few of my mentors who have been completely instrumental in my journey till now. So thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Thank you, sir, for demonstrating the importance of documenting, and especially giving importance to the quality of the images. So we would like to finish all the topics and then take question and answers because we have about 6 to 7 topics. So the next would be Power of Case Report and Case Series by Dr. Namrata. Over to you, Dr. Namrata.
Namrata? I think we can move on to the next presentation.
So the third speaker is Dr. Prasanna Ramesh, who will be talking to us on constructing an original article, building the blocks. Over to you, Prasanna, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Sharing my screen. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Team TNOA, ARC, and TJOSR for this opportunity. So for the next few minutes, I'll talk on constructing an original article, building the blocks. So I would like to thank the whole team, of course, our panel, the two editors. Thank you for this wonderful journey in IJO as well as in TJOSR, where I am also part of their team. Thank you, ma'am and sir. So what is an original article? So it's basically a primary source of scientific literature. It could be a research which is an experiment, survey, observation, or an original study. So it all starts with an idea, which is, the most resilient parasite, as Nolan calls it. So the purpose of an original article is to introduce an idea, which is an original idea, report a discovery, share new findings or establish older findings, propose a new theory, or shed new light on an already explored topic. So for a manuscript to be considered an original article, it should be written by the researchers who conducted the study, and it should include an hypothesis. The findings should be reported, and the study does not need to produce only positive. It can also be, regarding original research, which can also contradict or have negative results. So these findings should be interpreted and also be implicated. So before starting the research, choose the right research question and do a systematic literature search and structure your article. This is after completing your research to the journal in which you're going to send it, because different journals will have different house styles. So the research question could be, a simple missing puzzle where research gaps can be identified, or identifying a current problem, and also consult your mentor before choosing your question and the feasibility of the idea for the original study. So check citations of the previous research papers, which will give more light. And you can also refer to books, conference proceedings, online databases, and government reports as well, especially during the times of COVID. It moves beyond papers rather than, having into one particular agenda. So this is the IMRAD thing that I wanted to show, the introduction, starting with which you move to the methodology, then you have the results, then you will have the analysis, followed by the discussion part, which are the 5 important facets of a particular paper. So I've tried to make it slightly animative with my own original articles here. So starting with an attractive title and indicative title, which is very, very important that you start your paper with. Again, it could be also the ending that you give it to the title, but this is how it looks when you construct it. Abstract should be describing the entire study at a glance with purpose, methods, results, and conclusion that you can see, along with succinct keywords. Keywords are very important because they should be precise and relevant for your paper, which they are going to, search in Google Scholar or in even PubMed. And also make sure to have the title and the abstract, which is all, these are all the components that comes in the abstract, title, abstract, and the keywords which we spoke, and sufficient background about your work. In introduction paragraph, which we saw in the IMRAD, background will be what's known and what's unknown, because we are going to set induction of the readers. So these are things that are known and these are the things that are unknown. And the research question aims, or the hypothesis aims in, trying to unsolve the puzzle. The introduction is what's known, what's unknown, and the burning query or the goal that we start with. Do not answer the research question in the introduction. Start it with a question mark and then moves into the methodology, where if you are doing qualitative research, explain how you picked your subjects to be representative. Give a clear overview, give enough information on the pervasiveness of the study, and break it into smaller fragments, my dear friends, where you'll have even flow diagrams and tables if needed to explain the models. Like this one particular study that done by myself here, the methodology itself contains a flow chart to show the scheme of things to break it. And the declaration of Helsinki and the Institutional Ethics Committee clearance is something that is again very important, which is important here. The duration of the study, that is something again you need to point on. The sample size, the clear overview that you are going to show about the methodology. If needed, you can also have subheadings in the methodology, which really gives you the flow as to how you're moving towards, or there are methods that you are trying to employ in this particular study. So that is something about methodology. Even necessary tables, if you have algorithms, can be involved. Moving on to the third component, the results, which summarizes the data, avoid repeating the numbers, break the results into again subsections if needed, and use active voice when taking the results. So again, another animative factor here showing in my paper, only critical numbers that you can show can be highlighted in the results as seen here. Make sure it has the critical numbers. Remaining details can be shown in the tables itself and not trying to, load it into the results paragraph. So make sure you give space for tables and figures, where representation in the form of figures also conveys a lot of important data. So moving on to the discussion after the analysis is the majority of the authors begin by reiterating what they have accomplished. Rather, you have to concentrate also on what your statistics show rather than what we anticipated when the study started. So begin by saying what was discovered and then explain the data and anticipate your audience's inquiries and also your peer reviewers' comments that you're going to send it for a journal. And also try to corroborate or contradict the findings of your research. Unless you're doing a narrative or systemic review, you do not need to include every article from your literature review. And do not give a lengthy summary. Instead, focus on the past work directly related to your work. Either you corroborate or contradict. And the limitations, again, my dear friends, is very important. Every study will have its limitations. Always try to, before concluding, the unanswered questions and the future directions that we are focusing on. And last but not the least, the conclusion where you restate your research, summarize the key supporting ideas throughout the work, offer your final impression of the central idea, because the conclusion could be the end, but the end is the beginning, which will form a way for another study, because the beginning can also be the end can be the beginning. The references is cite all the sources that were utilized and follow the format as required by the journal. And tables and figures, table should be understandable, independent of the text, with numbers, percentages, mean, range, and standard deviation, or whatever that the study demands, and use your space judicially. As in this particular study of anti-glaucoma medication compliance, you can see numerous data putting into a table really spaces it out very well and makes it independently understandable here. And also make sure your data representation is proper, and figures can also be used to convey your data, charts and diagrams with good resolution. It simplifies a lot of your work, and conveying important data through figures. Again, one of my anti-glaucoma medication study where figures really chalks it out, and also the human equation on the right as to different information by different patients can also be highlighted with the help of figures. And appendix is also something very important, and also never fail to acknowledge people who helped you in the study along with footnotes. So this is just a start of your journey, and you'll face rejections, but after rejections comes, the real fruit of your hard work that you can see. And this is one of my journey which started from our own TNOA journal in 2021. And thankful to the editors here, I was able to have good recognition in TNOA as well as the National Journal in IJO, where the Certificate of Merit in 2022 and the Silver Award in 2023. And citations is the most important, my dear friends here. Your work getting cited by other people, your peers, your seniors. This is one of my papers cited in the World Glaucoma Symposium at AOS 2024, as well as one of the anti-glaucoma medication study. So citations really gives you a lot of credibility along with your publication, and if not now, then when. So let's start the journey by building the blocks and starting it by original article. A simple idea can pave way for this particular journey. So thank you once again to the whole team TNOA, President Sir, as well as Atik Sir and Jayantan Sir for this wonderful opportunity to share my take on how to start your journey with the original article. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasanna sir, for helping us decipher the different blocks in constructing the original article. Moving on, we now call upon Dr. Nimrita. If you're ready, we can go ahead with the power of case report and case series.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my screen is visible.
Yes, doctor.
Thank you, TNOA Scientific Committee and Dr. Prasanna sir for giving me this opportunity to talk about how to write a case report and case series. So, why should we write? Everyone wants to be famous and gain the recognition. My slides are visible?
No, not really. Can you try again?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, now my slides are visible.
It is.
I will start from beginning. Sorry, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, TNOA committee, scientific committee, and Dr. Prasanna sir for giving me this opportunity to talk about how to write case report and case series. So, why why should we write? Everyone wants to be famous. Everyone wants to be famous, and we can also enhance the patient care. Make yourself good clinician. Make different policy decision. We can get various funds and grants, and we can enhance the personal index as when we get citations for our publications. So, what should we write? Any clinical case or any imaging technique, any new therapy, any new complication which is unique and unreported should be written. And how can we publish? Through various index journals. So this is the hierarchy of various study design. So it is always good to start writing with a case report and case series, and then we can upgrade ourselves by climbing up the pyramid of this study design and do various types of publications. So there are various checklist approach which ensures the quality, objectivity, thoroughness, and gives the critique for writing various papers. The STROPs for observational study, we can follow the STROP checklist. For RCT, we can follow the CONCERT. For retrospective, we can follow record. And for case series, we can follow CARE checklist. So first, you should start writing with the title. It should be short, clear, crisp, and it should be catchy. Then abstract, it should be in short, describing the patient in detail, no references included, and you should always follow the word count for every journal. Then keywords, usually 5 keywords which are relevant to the case report. Then introduction, what is unique about this case, and you can include various references. And then main case report describing the symptoms, any interventions, clinical findings, any diagnostic therapy which was done, and what was the outcome and follow-up following it. Then discussion includes various references, and conclusion, what is the main take-home message from this case. Then references, always quote and style the references as per the journal, and then legends describing the slit lamp photograph examination. So this is the CARE checklist. It includes 13 points starting from title, keywords, abstract, introduction, clinical findings, any diagnostic or therapeutic intervention, follow-up, outcomes, discussion, patient perspective, and informed consent. So I will like to describe this case report which was published in IJO by using the CARE checklist. So starting with the title, reversal of hypotonic maculopathy by transconjunctival flap suturing, and then keywords which are related to our case report. Then coming to abstract, what is the introduction? We reported a case of reversal of hypotonic maculopathy following transconjunctival flap suture. And then what were the findings of following laser suture lysis, patient developed 360-degree choroidal detachment and hypotonic maculopathy, which was managed by transconjunctival flap suturing, which and post-operatively, the patient improved with complete resolution of CDs with good visual outcomes. Then coming to introduction, as this case report had the ocular hypertonia and choroidal detachment following laser suture lysis, so we can start writing with these words and quote the various references. Then patient information, or you should not. You should specify the patient details, and then you can describe the various symptoms of the patient presentation, and then what were the clinical findings and what was and how it was managed. with a proper timeline. And then coming to any diagnostic assessment was done. In this case, B scan was done, which showed 360-degree choroidal detachment. And therapeutic intervention in this surgical intervention, transconjunctival flap suturing was done. And then the follow-up, the patient had a complete resolution of choroidal detachment and reversal of macular hypotony. Then coming to discussion, always quote the references in discussion, and you should always highlight your strengths and limitation of a study, and then conclude by what is the main take-home message by writing the case report. Always check the literature before writing, because we have to always write what is not reported and what is unique and rare. Every journal has a different format, so you can download any article from the particular journal, and then you can follow the pattern of that journal. Example, for Journal of Glaucoma, everything is same, but it includes a precise, which includes a 35 words, which has to be summarized the main finding and the outcome of the study. After writing, then you have to start submitting. So first, this is the example of title page, which includes type of manuscript, complete manuscript title, author list, corresponding author, any conflict of interest, and any financial support. Then coming to cover page, what is the subject, to which journal you are submitting, any prior publications, it's been done or not, and the manuscript file I discussed before. Then collage and images. Every journal has a different format, so you should follow their site. And most of the journals ask the resolution of at least 300 dpi. Then some journals also ask for the consent forms, so you have to download, take the signature from the patient, and then upload it again. There are various writing tools available, such as Google Docs, ChatGPT, but the ChatGPT is still in the toddler phase, so we cannot rely as a whole to write a case report for ChatGPT. There are various paragraphs available online, such as Quillboard. I will show you one example. You can open on internet Quillboard, and then you can open one article. You can copy one line, and then you can paste it, and then refresh, and then you can add to your case report and modify it. Always check the plagiarism. Text similarity less than 15% is acceptable by journal, and a similarity of more than 25% has a high percentage of plagiarism. So always check plagiarism after writing your case report. Then next comes revise your draft 1 time, 2 time, and always take help from your mentors and colleagues. How to submit. You should always submit in an index journal, which has a good impact factor, and Q1 quality journals are considered a good quality journal. This slide shows various impact factor for various journals. Then how to choose a journal. You can take help from mentors, colleagues, friends, and with your experience. And online, there also is a journal finder in which you can paste your abstract content, and then it will give you a specific journal in which you can submit, and the acceptance chances increases. Always make yourself updated. You can subscribe many journals online, and they can send you the articles monthly, and then you can read it and make yourself updated. Also, you can customize the PubMed, and PubMed will send you the articles which you are interested. You can get ideas from Clinic. Coming to how to write a case series. So what is the difference between case report and case series? Case report is an unusual finding in a single patient. Case series is a similar unusual finding seen in multiple patients ranging from 2 to 10 cases. So this was a case series including 4 cases of thin cystic leaking bleb, which was managed by a scleral rotational autograft. So coming to rejections, so why any paper or any case report is rejected? It is not a unique, it is not related to a specific particular journal due to improper formatting. So always follow the instructions by visiting the journal site, and sometimes it can be a wrong English also. So if rejected, don't get rejected, submit to another journals, otherwise your work is in total vain. So after thinking, stop thinking and please start writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Namrata, for that wonderful presentation. Moving on, I now request Dr. Vijayalakshmi to talk to us about dealing with rejections pragmatically.
Okay. Namrata, can you stop sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it went off, no?
Yeah, it got clear. Just a second.
Yes.
I'm not able to, yeah, got it. Whether my slides are seen?
Yes, Dr. Vijayalakshmi.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizing team for giving me this wonderful opportunity. So today I have come up with an interesting title, How to Deal with Paper Rejections from a Journal. Basically, what is this paper rejection? It is a rejection of a research paper by a journal, conference, or by a funding body. We all have to realize that it's a common part of academic process, and this rejection, this doesn't reflect the value of the research. That particular paper is not fit for that particular journal. That's why the paper is getting rejected. What is the first and foremost thing we all must do immediately after we receive a rejection letter? We must acknowledge our emotions. We might feel disappointed, frustrated, or even we might be doubtful of the content of the manuscript. But at the end of the day, just realize that academic rejections happens to everyone. Even the top researchers would be receiving rejections even now. So I have come up with 8 steps how to deal with paper rejections pragmatically. First and foremost is very simple. Just take a break. It could be for a few days or few weeks for some sensitive people. Why to take a break? So this break is definitely going to clear your mind and reduce the emotional intensity. And also it will help to gain perspective before you start revisiting the paper. Meanwhile, you can start writing a simple case report, or you can even submit some interesting images to the journals, or you can start writing proposal for your next project. Step 2 will be reflect on the feedback given by the reviewers. Do not overlook the reviewer comments just like that. Go through each and every comments given by the reviewers carefully. If your paper is going to get rejected by one or more journals, then just make effort to identify what are the common issues highlighted by multiple reviewers. Whether it is pertaining to your methodology part, or lack of study participants, or lack of clarity in the way we are interpreting the results, or the way we have discussed in a manuscript. So what is the major issue? We need to find out that issue. Just think of rejection as a constructive criticism. It is a chance given to you to improve and strengthen your paper. So if you think it and in a positive way, it will help to clarify the weaknesses and points for revision. Now with the positive mindset, start revising your paper. Make effort to address the reviewer comments thoroughly in a systematic way. This is definitely going to improve the clarity of a paper. And also if there are any errors in the methodology part or a statistical part, discuss with the statistician. And if your study results are totally contradicting what has been published before, try to get some theoretical foundation, add few more references. This is definitely going to add value to your paper. Never hesitate to seek external help from your colleagues, mentors, or co-authors for feedback. Even you can collaborate with some of the senior persons. This is definitely going to improve the manuscript writing skill. Now start searching for appropriate journal. So you can just go through all the references cited in your paper. According to the references, you can get an idea like what are the journals those papers are getting accepted. So this will give you an idea like which journal will be suitable for your current paper. Throughout the stressful journey, just maintain motivation and a positive approach. Remember why you started your research journey. try to celebrate even small wins, even if an image is getting published or a case report is getting published throughout the stressful journey. Just try to celebrate those small wins. Now submit again. So you have revised your manuscript, you have addressed all the reviewer comments, and you have chose the appropriate journal. You are going to submit again. Even now, you will not be guaranteed like your paper will be accepted. So you should have plan A and plan B. If my paper is going to get accepted, then what will be my next proposal? Plan B would be if my paper is going to get rejected, what will be my next journal? So this should be your approach. Rejection does not define your work or ability. The more you submit, the higher the chances of success. Make efforts to learn and grow from experience. Academic rejection is a skill building experience. So develop the resilience to face rejection without being discouraged. Moreover, after a few years of publication, each one of you is going to become a reviewer. So all these feedbacks given by the reviewers, it is teaching you how to critically analyze a paper and what are the comments you should be focusing on in a paper when you become a reviewer. My final thoughts would be rejection is normal, nothing to do with personal issues. It's a part of academic journey. Take your own time to process, revise, and keep pushing forward. Each rejection provides valuable feedback to improve and get closer to acceptance. So I like to conclude my talk with a random quote. As I look back on my life, I realized that every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better. Thank you all for the patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, for that wonderful message. So moving on, I now request Dr. Pranesh Ravi to talk to us on managing references efficiently with toolkits to note.
Are my slides visible, ma'am?
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah. On the outset, I would like to thank Jayanathan sir, Atik sir, Prasanna, and TNOA for giving me this opportunity. For today's talk, I'll be talking about managing references efficiently and toolkits to note for managing these references. To start with, why use reference management tools? They help maintain academic integrity, avoid plagiarism, they save time and effort. You can use this software to grasp the citations, make bibliographies easily. You might be mixing and matching, adding references down the lane in your document manager. So you can use this. You can facilitate collaboration with among researchers and also enhance overall research writing. There are a plethora of reference manager. You have BibBase, Zotero, RefWorks, EndNote. So I'll be talking about the most common, Zotero and Mendeley. So these are softwares which help you to organize, they collect data, bibliographical data, and automate the creation of citations and bibliographies. They have a lot of styles you can choose from, and when creating your citations. And the process for the reference is, it collects the citations, everything, it collates it, and then you can use it to cite it in your articles in your document editor, be it Google Docs, be it MS Words, and even online editor for that matter. So the key features are, they can capture the metadata. They can also capture metadata from PDFs. They can annotate documents and add notes. And there is also in-text citation and bibliography generation. And in the video, you can see where you can, you can see the citation happening in Zotero in real time, where you have a lot of styles to choose from, and you can add this citation to the document directly. To start with, we have Zotero, where it's a free and open source software. It integrates with a lot of word processors. It's also available for online citation through Google Docs. And it can, it can download and it can store PDFs along with the study that you're dealing with. And it's open source, and it can work in most of the operating systems. And key features is it can extract full text and integration with Google Docs, and it can deal with any type of word editing software like Excel, be it Google Docs, and so on and so forth. It can also collect images. And this is a plugin where how you see this integration with Google Docs, and then you can annotate in PDFs, and this will immediately, store the annotation so you can keep it there for future reference. Next, coming to Mendeley. Mendeley is more of a reference manager and also a social networking platform where you can manage and share research papers. You can collaborate with researchers. It's more like a social media platform, and it also got a desktop application. And the advantage is the support system is robust. The updation is much robust, and it work in all platforms, even in Linux. So it's more or less similar, but you do have a mobile access. You can access your which is not available in Zotero, and it has got a good integrated automatic duplicate deletion where it will find out all the duplicates, even though the numbers are jumbled up. It can, even if you do manually add a reference, it can find a duplicate and it'll prompt you to delete it. So that's really good in Mendeley. So coming to the primary differentiating factorial between Zotter and Mendeley, Mendeley provides you a lot of space. So you can, attach a lot of PDFs and other information, but Zotero is only limited to 200. And these are all cloud saved, so you need not worry about your references being lost. And overall, for a reading experience, if you're going to read through your reference manager, then Mendeley is much better. The PDF reader is much better in compared to Zotero, and it allows collaboration. You can just add the creator directly to Mendeley, and you can collaborate on a project as when with all the bibliography and references in that software. The other most common ones are RefWorks, EndNotes, and PaperPile. The EndNote is a commercial software, and it's been there for it's time tested, but it's expensive. RefWorks is web-based if you're more on just taking the citations alone for your presentations and all. PaperPile, if you're working only on Google Docs and you want something integration, then PaperPile also works. So how to choose a right reference manager is you can try out different versions. It depends upon your knowledge of the software and how much you can use it. You can try out, and whatever suits you best, you can use it. And whichever you find it easy to tweak, mix and match, you can use that reference manager of your choice. The best practices is import and organize references accurately, and you can, if you're dealing with a lot of similar topics, you can use tags where you can, collate all the references in tags, so that all these references you can just get access it in a click of a tag. And backing up, you just need to connect to the internet, and it'll automatically get saved, so that even if your laptop gets crashed or if all your work is lost, it's not going to be make a big hassle because you already have it backed up in the cloud. So if you are in a run and you want some online citation generation, then Cite This For Me works. It's simple. It's got a lot of styles. So, and the next one is Quillbot. Quillbot has got a free citation generator. If you have there are a lot of AI-based citation generations where you just paste the text. Even ChatGPT has it through a plugin. Paste the text, and then you copy the text, and it'll find out what the where the source has been taken from. But it depends upon the database, and if it's open source, it can access it. But if it's behind a paywall, I don't know how sure these AI-based reference thing works. And the second thing is the understanding of the grammar by these large language models is very questionary, because we are not laureates, and we make a lot of mistakes in grammar, and how the machine learning algorithm understands this is quite different. So you have to use this with a pinch of salt. And finally, for a bonus tip, if you want to immediately click an article and save it off, you can use this hub plugin, dash up plugin. So you just have to upload this, you just install this plugin. This is on GitHub. You can scan the barcode to kind of download it, and then you just click, and automatically it'll get connected to whichever reference software that you're having, and it'll get it'll open up, and then you can immediately click on your reference manager and paste it out. For more than 2020, if you can get the access to the article through ResearchGate or Mendeley, it's great. Or else you can use the Nexus bot or AutoNexus. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pranish, for helping us understand the various utilities and limitations of the reference managers. So now I request Dr. Madhavi to talk to us on tips and tricks on how to get your manuscript published.
Thank you. Good evening, one and all. I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible.
Yes, Dr. Madhavi.
At the outset, I would like to thank the TNOA ARC team and TJOSR team for giving me this opportunity. So today I'll be talking on some of the tips and tricks I have learned across my journey of publications. So I would like to begin my thanking and dedicating this talk to my two mentors, without whom I wouldn't be here speaking to you. So this was my very first publication, which was not an ophthalmic publication, rather a microbiology publication, which happened during my final year of MBBS. And this was done as a part of an ICMR short-term studentship program, which is only a 3-month program. And the research was conducted just for a period of 3 months. And with the help of my mentor, who is seen alongside me, Dr. Ethel Suman, who belongs to the Department of Microbiology, I was able to get it published in an international journal. So after a hiatus of 10 years, that was in 2009, and then in 2019, I had my second publication after meeting my second mentor, who rekindled my passion in publications. So thus started my journey. So I'll be sharing few tips. So the first tip is there is no magic formula. First of all, you have to have something to say. That is something new. Just write because you have something to say, not because you want to say something. So there has to be a proper research for proper scientific writing. That is the tip number 1. So by proper scientific writing and proper research, we have to do a proper planning, a thorough literature search. And this is the most important part of this slide: formulate a precise research question. So what do journals want? Absolutely, you have to have a research question or a thesis statement. And we'll come to this research question in detail. So research question can be very vague, like to put it in a non-scientific pattern. So it can be as vague as something like Lara versus Tendulkar. So how to make this question very specific? So we can compare whether Lara is as good as a cricketer as Tendulkar or as good as a batsman as Tendulkar. Now that research question has become much more specific. So again, to make it much more specific and in a comparative manner, to compare whether Lara is as good batsman as Tendulkar in ODI and ODI in home series. And we can compare whether in series, opening, chasing. So this is how a simple research question is made to more specific research question. So this is how you can refine your research question using the standard PICOT. This is an acronym which is used to refine your research question. So what is the population of your study? What is the intervention you're doing? How you're comparing? What is the outcome? And what is the time frame? There is a qualitative PICOT as well, in which the context and the outcome are also used. So now you have formulated a research question, whether it is worth saying. So if yes, where to send, in what format, and how to write. So how do you know whether your research question is worth saying? So this is where your mentor helps. So let me give some examples. So you're having a scientific content. So for this example, we had a new technique. We started a new technique of injection mitomycin C. So what was already existing at that point of time was a standard technique of sponge soak mitomycin C. So now the research question has come, comparing this new technique with an already existing one. So then we went to the literature and searched how many articles are already published in the literature for this particular research question. And there were hardly very few publications. So this, from the research question came the first publication. We looked at the 1-year outcomes in a prospective comparative manner. So next research question came. So now that we have found that the technique is effective, we wanted to know whether this has good long-term outcomes. So this time we conducted a well-planned RCT comparing the two techniques. Then that was done in trabeculectomy. Now the next research question, whether this injection versus sponge is good in phacotrabeculectomy. So from that research questions came the third article. So that is about that particular topic of interest. So this is another topic. So this was comparing ab interno microtrabeculotomy compared with the standard phacoemulsification. So what is the key to this research question? So this was the first prospective randomized study. So that is one attractive thing. And secondly, this was the first mixed paper in Indian population, and we had a comparison with the standard phacoemulsification. Since being a new technique, we wanted to know whether intraocular pressure reduction is more than the standard phacoemulsification. So this is the third paper which I'll be talking about. So in this study, we wanted to report the outcomes of GAT combined with phacoemulsification. So this was published in Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. So by this time, GAT is already a standard known procedure. So what is new in this research question is that it was done in Indian eyes. And so that gives the context in the Indian Journal of Ophthalmology, and a comparison was made between the standalone GAT as well. So how do you find a gap in research? So the best way or the classical way is to look at the literature search. And if you are having a topic of interest, look similar articles, look at the study limitations. This will give you a good starting point for a research question. Read the systematic reviews of your topic of interest, and that will give you a crux of the that particular research question. Next is whether your research question is valid. This is where your mentor's role come into play. And now there are a lot of AI tools, as the previous speakers also indicated. So that can also help you find a research question. Next tip is about the writing plan. Never start with the introduction first. Go to the materials and methods, because you have to have a foolproof methodology. So that is how you start the writing. And then choose the right journal. So the GAT paper which I was talking about, already it was a well-known technique which was already published in the international journals. But in the context of Indian scenario, it was not published. So that made Indian Journal of Ophthalmology the right journal to publish that paper. So whether the scope of the journal matches your research is one thing you should be looking at. And look for article types in that particular journal. Certain journals publish only certain article types. For example, surgical techniques may not be published in many journals, but IJO has something like a surgical technique. Look at the impact factor. And one thing you have to look at, another thing when you're going for international publication, look whether it is an open access or subscription. The publication fees can be quite high in open access publications. The next tip, or the most important tip, is the writing. So Dr. Prasanna talked about the IMRAD. I will be telling some key points in each of those. So in title, it should be really attractive, meaningful. It should convey the gist of what you're going to say. And the title will be usually read by all. When it comes to the abstract, it will be read by majority. So it should be complete, and it should convey the most interesting and most important part of your work. So when it comes to the introduction, it is very, very important, because a bad beginning can make a bad ending. So what is your question? What do we already know? What the knowledge is lacking? And how do you intend to bridge this gap? So these are the 4 important points that should come in your introduction. So the common mistakes that we do is making the introduction too lengthy and putting all the literature in the introduction, etc. So this should not happen. Make it crisp, and it should revolve around your research question. And methods, this is the most important part, and it should provide all the information. For somebody else to perform the same study, the method should be perfect. So it should provide all the information needed. And so what was done? Who was the study population? When, where, how? These are the parts of your methodology that should be there. When it comes to result, give the facts, and do not draw conclusion in your results. So this is where the discussion comes, not in the results. And tell the story. Keep the facts straight and tell the story without any diversions. And when it comes to discussion, this is the most difficult section to write. So you have to give a summary of what was found, why it is important, and it should address the aims which is stated in the introduction. So it should directly correlate with what you have spoken in your introduction. And the subsequent paragraph should discuss how it supports or refutes the current knowledge. So in case if your discussion or your result is refuting the current knowledge, you have to give a probable hypothesis or explanation as to, and it should be more scientific, as to why it refutes the existing literature. So the penultimate paragraph, you have to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the present study, and ideally do not end with "we are now investigating further" or "further studies are needed," something like that. The last part, the conclusion, it should have some future direction, impact on the current understanding. The conclusion should not be generalized. Make it very, very specific, and again that should correlate with your aim as well. And in references, never quote secondhand, and limit the number of references, and quote relevant Indian references which is relevant to your study. So before starting, make holders for different parts of your study. And as already stated, start with methodology, what you have done, why you did it, and start collecting the references. And start soon and start today. And another important thing is the language. It is important to use the most easily understood words. So for example, so this is two ways of putting the same thing. Clear writing is writing that can be understood. The same thing can be written as clear writing is writing that cannot be misunderstood. So this is much more simpler than the second way. So make it simple. Do not use double adjectives, etc. So a lot of talk has been going about using AI in research paper writing. I would like to discuss a little bit about the ethics around it. So yes, AI does help in finding new insights, patterns, alternative phrases, sentences like that was already shown by Quillbot. But beware of false information as well. And check the journal guidelines for ethical consideration in using AI-assisted research writing, because even Quillbot generated language can be detected today. And plagiarism and originality concerns as well as in AI. So AI is just a tool to assist with your research, and it is not a substitute for human judgment or critical thinking. Always check for bias and accuracy and keep records of AI use and give a proper disclosure. And next is, after once you are ready with your manuscript, you can seek a pre-publication peer review. So how do you do this? So this is done by presenting before peers in conferences. So this is a great way to seek the peer review, and you can modify your manuscript accordingly. Some journals even provide peerage service before submission at certain cost. And the next step is adhering to the journal guidelines. So this is the ophthalmology glaucoma. So you'll have a guide for authors, and some journals even provide a video assisted guidelines. So even IJO provides a video guidelines. So this is the IJO website in which you have a manuscript check also available, started quite recently. So you can check your manuscript for any common errors and omissions. And the next thing is the cover letter. So writing an effective cover letter is also equally important, because this helps to convince the editor. So what are the contents of your cover letter? You have to highlight the relevance of your work and showcase your key findings. And some of the author services are available with the Elsevier as well, which include the language editing services. And this cover letter pattern is actually taken from the Elsevier's website. So rejection, it is not the end of the world. Be a good loser and do not accept defeat so quickly. So this is one of the famous rejections, the DNA double helix model, which was rejected 7 times. And this is another rejection in the Nature paper. So you can interestingly see it was rejected in 1992 from Dr. Radcliffe, who went on to win the Nobel Prize for the same work on hypoxia. So to summarize, you should have a new original message, an important subject to tell, and which should be relevant to that particular journal. It should be presented in a clear manner, in an interesting manner, and it should cover a neglected area. Last but not the least, be honest. Do not fabricate data. Truth always prevails. And most importantly, keep going. You will get there in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madhavi. Actually, your tips were very good. You voiced most of the concerns which editors have. I think Vanati Madam will accept it, especially on the AI part, fabricating data, all those things, because we read all the articles and then send it for peer review. So one biggest challenge now we have is an AI now. So initially, 2 years back, if we have a very good article, nicely written, we'll be happy. Now we need to actually suspect if it is very good. We need to check for the plagiarism. We need to check if it is a ChatGPT data. Nicely put up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
The last topic for today would be approaching letter to editor by Dr. Mritika Sen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, TNOA and TJOSR and Dr. Prasanna, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about an approach to letter to the editor. Of course, it is my privilege to present in front of one of my mentors, Dr. Vanati here, who introduced me to the world of scientific research and publication. So coming to a letter to an editor, my presentation is short as what a letter to an editor should be. And I'd like to start with this publication, which actually dealt with a serendipitous observation that oral propranolol helps in the management of capillary hemangioma of infancy. Interestingly, this was a letter to the editor, which was published in New England Journal of Medicine in 2008, and currently it has received over 3,000 citations. So a letter to an editor is also referred to as correspondence, communication, or research letters. So what does it include? It includes most commonly a response to a published article. Here, this is either a critical analysis, a comment, or some constructive points that are raised, which could be an observation regarding some disagreement with the methodology or some concern regarding the interpretation of the results. Even a response to a letter to editor or a rebuttal is included in LTE or letter to editor. This could also be a short communication that deals with the clarification of a concept, counterpoints, new hypothesis, or new perspective. Certain original articles that fall short of full-length articles, for instance, certain shorter case reviews, or you must have seen multiple letters to editors during the period of COVID, which could deal with a single case report or shorter views or observations, which does not qualify to a full-length article. The last two are not so common. Certain journals also request some feedback or constructive criticism, or even communication to invite collaboration or gain access to research material. So why is a letter to editor important? Because it promotes a scientific communication between the journal and its readership. It is a two-way communication between the readers as well as the journal. It's not just between the author and the editor. Also, it is a type of peer review by the readers themselves. Any article which is published in a scientific journal has already undergone peer review, but this is by the audience or the editor who are giving, or rather the readers who are giving back their feedback to it. It's something similar to a post on social media where you have people commenting on it. All right, now this was another important study which was published by Eagle et al. It was regarding it was a series of 7 cases where there was inadvertent evisceration of eyes which contained uveal melanoma. And this was published in the Archives of Ophthalmology. But what followed was multiple communications, letters, and comments regarding this article, including editorials as well as certain responses. So this included over 8 to 9 articles which followed one single article. So that is the power of a letter to an editor and the dialogue that it can entail and lead to better understanding of a concept. So coming to how to go about with writing a letter to an editor, important points are maintain brevity, scientific rigor, clarity, and it should be simple, concise, and straightforward. The title should, this is from the Ophthalmology Journal, the title should be regarding the last name of the first author, et al., and the title of the study that you are referring to. And then you start it with to the editor. Now, before you start writing, these are certain guidelines. They are not hard and fast rules, but just recommendations that you can follow. Think about it. If you're planning to write a letter, is it really needed? Is it adding something to the literature or to the knowledge or to the scientific credibility or the journal credibility? Go through the article. I would suggest go through it multiple times, because when you read it once, there are a lot of points that come to your mind that you feel that this is not right or this should have been explained more thoroughly. But when you go through it again, especially the limitation section or the discussion, you may find that the authors might have addressed some of those. Do a good literature search, especially with updated references before you start writing. Look up the journal's requirements, and I'll be coming to that again. You will have to include a cover letter, including a title page with the author's name, institution, acknowledgement, and disclosures. Your purpose should be clear. So before you start writing, discuss with your co-authors A journal club is important or helpful when you start writing a letter to an editor. When you're discussing a particular paper, sometimes others can also come up with certain points during a journal club discussion, and that can help you put together a letter or a correspondence. Make sure the points that you raise are relevant, and you can back it up with evidence with updated reference. You should structure it in a way, preferably try not to include more than 3 to 4 points in a letter, and structure it such that each paragraph addresses one key point. Avoid subheadings in a correspondence. In the end, summarize and give constructive comments. Always be courteous. Avoid personal comments. No article is perfect, and that is why it undergoes changes and modifications multiple times before it is published. So be respectful to the authors. Do not repeat what is already written in the original article. So once you have written your letter, go back to the original article. Make sure you're not being repetitive or coming up with points which have already been addressed. Of course, like with any other paper, avoid grammatical errors and submit within a defined time frame, because these are also peer reviewed. Now, these are some of the important journals and their recommendation when it comes to letter to editor or correspondence and replies and research letters. IGO specifies that the maximum number of authors to this should be 5. Others usually don't specify, but it should be limited, and you can acknowledge additional authors in the acknowledgement statement. As you can see, brevity is very important because these have a word limit. These are short correspondence, so usually within 500 to 700 words. Most journals discourage figures and tables within a correspondence unless it is a new idea or a perspective which is being presented. References should also be limited and should be updated or newer references, maximum up to 5 to 6. And it should be within the time frame of the published article. Usually it varies between 2 to 6 months. Responding to a letter to editor also comes under this. Go through the letter thoroughly. Assess for the points that they have raised, whether they're accurate, any duplication of points, and verify with your original article. If a letter adds to the clarity of the original article, you need not always respond to it, but you should inform the editor that this does not require any further response. And if you feel that it requires a response, thank the authors first for going through your article as well as raising points. If these points are valid, be humble and courageous enough to accept it, and also put forth your points as to how you intend to address them in future. Provide valid counterpoints and always maintain a respectful tone. Usually the period in which you need to submit or respond to a letter is 10 to 14 days. And yeah, thank you very much. And I hope you can start writing letters to editors soon.
Thank you, Dr. Mritika. Help us understand the various do's and don'ts of writing the letter to editor. Now, can I request Professor Vanati ma'am to share her views on the various topics discussed? Ma'am, your insights, please.
This has been a very, very useful webinar, and I think for all those who are out there as budding researchers seeking to write out whatever they are seeing in their daily clinics or in their or converting their thesis work into research manuscripts, I think this is going to be a wonderful guide of how they need to be starting their work and how they need to start their writing here. I think most of the authors, most of the talks, or almost all the talks, were just excellent. And one thing which I would urge all of you who are wanting to write is to spend some amount of time, as is permissible according to the kind of works or your clinical commitments, to start reading journals. I think reading a lot of journals really gives you a very good insight, and it sort of subconsciously embeds in your mind the way you would have to go about approaching research writings. That is number one. Number two, I would say those of you who are in institutional practices or who can have, these days we don't need to be, to have physical presence. So you could schedule perhaps once in a fortnight a meeting with all your group of practices and discuss a case of importance, discuss a series of cases of importance. And that really encourages the way you could critically look at a particular situation. So it's sort of reviewing what you did in a particular situation. It's sort of enlightening what was new in that particular situation. And that will also push you to go back and read literature and also see what was unique in that particular case. And that's how research writing actually begins. Again, I would also not urge you all to write a particular article for your promotion. Then, that is another approach which is followed by many. But if your article is good enough, it always gets published. I always like to say this to everybody. Why would an editor not want to have the best of the articles in his or her journal? If your writing is that good, if the work you're presenting is that good, why would anybody want to reject it? So that's something which you will have to say here. And it's only natural that for all of us who are submitting, it happens to me as well when I do submit to other journals such as Konya, and you have a rejection, you always feel, oh, my work was good and why it was rejected. Always go back and see what was lacking that caused it to be rejected. So look at a coin has both sides here. And it's only natural for all of us to think that what we have done is always good enough here. But perhaps I think it was good, but it just still not reached the target. And you have to go that extra mile to make it better than many others here. Today, competition is very tough here. So for yours to be selected among 10 similar lines which are being discussed, it really needs to be the best. So that's where you score over. And again, remember, people don't want to read something which is already existing in literature. People want to read something new which you have done, some new message, some new method of managing a particular clinical situation, some new clinical technique which is here. So all these need to be important. And if you are probably not giving a new information, you're probably sharing your clinical experience over a large series of a similar clinical scenario. And that also enlightens the audience about the experience which you get on managing particular cases here. So that again is important. And when you are going to publish for IJOCR case reports, remember the quality of your pictures is very important. And again, I would always say, in research writing, please remember they are not conference talks. So somebody is submitting an article, a peek through a hole. It sounds very fancy and fantastic, but then it really puts your editor off because it doesn't lead me anywhere. I have no clue what you're peeking through and what you're seeing. So it's always nice because please remember, people have very little time and they all, decide on whether they want to read it or not by just looking at the title and by your abstract. Unless that is impactful, unless that's insightful of what you're going to be telling them over the 1 or 2 pages they are going to read, they're going to flip it over and go on to the next one. So that's how, given the little space you have, you will have to draw your readers towards reading what you are writing for them. And I think it's still an ongoing process. I am still learning. And I also will encourage you to hold journal clubs among your institutes and among your colleagues here. So journal clubs are a huge way. You could pick up, a case report. You could pick up a case series. You could just pick up a review article. You could pick up a couple of original articles on a common subject, and you can learn to critically review it. Once you learn to critically review an article, you also become a very good research writer because you would avoid all those errors and you would anticipate what your reviewers or the editorial board or the editorial members are going to be looking at when you're publishing your work here. Again, I think as most of you sitting here who are widely published, all of us, when we are submitting our paper, we know best what is lacking in our paper. We know best what is the drawback in our paper. So it's how nicely you approach that drawback and make it acceptable to the editorial team and the reviewers is what is going to get your paper through to publication. So that's something which you learn as you learn to read more articles, as you learn to discuss more articles, and as you learn to critically analyze more of published literature. All the very best, and looking forward to some very high quality publications reaching our portals in this new year. Wishing you all a very, very happy new year.
Thank you, ma'am, for emphasizing the importance of reading rather the forgotten art, the importance of discussion holding journal clubs. Now I would like to request Jayantan sir to carry forward the question answers session if we have some time for that.
Any of the authors, I mean, like the speakers, you have any queries to be answered now? Is there anything on the chat box? By the time we collect, I would like to just mention the gist of the program. The reason why we started this is like we want everyone to write. So we have a point for everyone. Like for example, what we suggest is just start off with a small note in your clinic. Write down all the cases. If possible, take a picture. And it is not mandatory that you need to write it down as a manuscript immediately. You can take time, come back, and then review the images, see the case sheets, and then you can start off with a small ophthalmic images. So it's easy to actually publish an image. The key here, as Dr. Samir said, is have a catchy topic. Second, if you have one or two cases, you can just go ahead with a case report. If you have multiple, move on to a case series. And if that is developing, you can write a original report, original article. So the next thing, once you start writing an original article, that the next thing that comes in your mind is what if it gets rejected? That's the reason we had the topic immediately after the original article. So never fear for a rejection, because definitely you'll have more of rejection than publication, but it is a learning process. It will meant you to do good number of manuscripts in your portfolio. And in case if you don't have a picture, if you don't have a case series, if you just have an idea, you can just write a letter to the editor, and that's the reason we want to highlight that as the final topic. So just keep reading the journals. You can take last 4 issues of TJOSR, read. You can go to one of the article which you like. You can write a letter to the editor, and definitely that adds a publication status to your portfolio. So that's the whole idea of having this, and everybody has put it up in a nice one. So we'll have a conclusion summary by our TNOA ARC chairman right now.
Thank you, Jayantan. So I'd like to thank all the speakers. It was a really a wonderful job done. So as Dr. Samir said, the first thing I'd request all of you to do is tomorrow we all can go and start taking pictures. As Samir said, take good quality pictures. I think he kept emphasizing the significance of that. So take images, start documenting, and just send those pictures. That is step 1. You can write little bit to it. You don't want to bother about much of references and writing in detail. Step 2, go on to case reports, as Dr. Nimrita said. And you have something more than that, as Dr. Prasanna and Dr. Madhavi said. You can go ahead with the case with the full manuscript writing. A lot of take-home points from Prasanna's talk and Dr. Madhavi. And Dr. Madhavi gave many a times we think too much with not getting a topic. And something really nice what Dr. Madhavi said was, you will get a lot of answers by reading someone else's data. And she was saying that go through the limitations. Those limitations may be your new topic. So that was something really nice, something you can really take forward. As Vanati ma'am said, we need to keep reading to understand what we need to do or what we need to write. And in case that gets rejected, a very nice, a little bit philosophical talk by Vijayalakshmi madam, that was really nice. So that rejection concept can be used everywhere, in theater, in entrance exams, everywhere. So nice talk. So once it gets rejected, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that was really a nice talk. And as Jayantan summarized and said, start writing letters to the editor, as Mritika put it up very nicely. And she was saying, tone it down in case you get your article gets a letter. Don't be harsh. Someone is saying that because they want you to get better. So take it positively and reply to it properly. So thank you so much. That was a really wonderful job. Jayantan, you want to discuss anything, or if not, Vanati ma'am, anything to finish, or Arul sir?
Yeah, I'm right, very much here. Thank you. I think that was a very good program. I think a lot of take-home points. Every single speaker was very erudite, and they had very pertinent points to put across. I'm sure that whoever has listened in would go back a lot more educated and ready to start publishing in one way or the other. So we look forward to a lot more publications coming in and higher quality, not just publications, much higher quality, both for our TN journal as well as the IJO, because we need to bring up our impact factor manifold. And our work is what is going to do it.
Thank you, sir. I forgot to mention Pranish's talk. Will use your equipment or your laptop sincerely. Use it with caution is what he was saying, but always better to get the aid of computer. Sorry, Pranish. So with that, I request Naglakshmi to go ahead with the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Atik. On behalf of TNOA ARC team, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks first to Dr. Jayantan sir, for the editor-in-chief for TJOSR, for conceiving the various topics and bringing together this expert panel of speakers. Also like to express my gratitude to our distinguished speakers, their insightful presentations and sharing with us their in-depth knowledge of the various aspects of the art of publications. And also thank Vanti ma'am for sparing her precious time late this evening. I also extend my thanks to our TNOA president and the committee members for spending their time and attending this webinar. Last but not least, I would also like to thank our technical support, Numerotech, for helping us with the smooth functioning of the webinar. In closing, I hope everyone leaves with a greater understanding of how to publish and navigate this world of publication. Thank you once again for taking part in this enlightening session. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Prasanna, thank you. Super. Jayantan, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
முடிச்சிட்டாங்களா?
Yeah.